The sun-kissed streets of Oakdale, a small conservative town in the 1950s, were lined with quaint shops and bustling diners, where the air was sweet with the scent of freshly baked pies, and the sound of laughter echoed through the sidewalks. It was a time of innocence, a time of simplicity, and a time of rigid social norms. In this idyllic setting, two young souls, Harper and Willow, found themselves entwined in a forbidden love that would change the course of their lives forever. Harper, with her curly brown hair and bright green eyes, was a beautiful and free-spirited 22-year-old who worked at the local bookstore. She was a voracious reader, with a passion for literature and a love for words that seemed to dance on the pages of her favorite novels. Willow, on the other hand, was a 25-year-old artist with a wild mane of blonde hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through to the soul. She was a talented painter with a passion for abstract expressionism and a heart that beat to the rhythm of jazz. Their paths crossed on a warm summer evening at a town fair where Harper was working as a volunteer and Willow was showcasing her artwork. As their eyes met, time seemed to stand still and the world around them melted away. They exchanged shy smiles, and Harper's heart skipped a beat as Willow approached her, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. As they talked, they discovered a shared love for art, literature, and music. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, like a gentle stream meandering through the countryside. They laughed, they joked, and they found themselves lost in each other's eyes. It was as if they had known each other for years, not just minutes. But their love was forbidden. In Oakdale, same-sex relationships were taboo, and the townspeople viewed them with suspicion and disdain. Harper and Willow knew the risks of being discovered, of being ostracized by their community, and of facing the wrath of their families. Yet, they couldn't help but be drawn to each other, like moths to a flame. As the summer wore on, they stole moments together, meeting in secret, hiding from prying eyes, and cherishing every second they shared. They would sit on the outskirts of town, watching the stars twinkle to life, and talk about their dreams, their aspirations, and their fears. They were each other's safe haven, a place where they could be themselves without fear of judgment or rejection. But the weight of societal expectations eventually took its toll. Harper's parents, conservative and traditional, disapproved of Willow's lifestyle. They urged Harper to marry a man, to settle down, and to forget about her phase. Willow, too, faced pressure from her family and friends, who urged her to conform, to marry a man, and to start a family. As the pressure mounted, Harper and Willow knew they had to part ways. They made the painful decision to go their separate ways, to marry men, and to live the lives expected of them. They exchanged one last bittersweet goodbye, promising to never forget each other and to always cherish the memories they had shared. Years went by, and Harper and Willow built separate lives. Harper married a kind and gentle man named John, and they had two beautiful children together. Willow, too, married a wonderful man named Michael, and they built a life filled with art, love, and laughter. But the memories of their time together lingered, a constant ache in their hearts. They often wondered what could have been, what would have happened if they had been brave enough to defy convention, to fight for their love. Fate, however, had other plans. One crisp autumn evening, Harper and Willow crossed paths again at a gallery opening in the city. They stood across the room, their eyes locking in a flash of recognition. Time seemed to stand still, and the world around them melted away, just like it had all those years ago. As they approached each other, they exchanged awkward smiles, and a little of the old spark reignited. They talked, they laughed, and they reminisced about old times. Harper's eyes wandered to Willow's face, and she felt a flutter in her chest. Willow, too, felt a pang of longing, a sense of nostalgia wash over her. As they parted ways, they exchanged phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. Over the next few weeks, they talked, sharing stories about their lives, their marriages, and their children. They laughed, they joked, and they found themselves lost in each other's eyes, just like old times. One evening, as they sat on the phone, talking long after the sun had set, Harper turned to Willow and asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had stayed together?" Willow's voice was barely above a whisper. "Every day, Harper, every day." As the night wore on, they talked about their regrets, their what-ifs, and their maybes. They talked about the choices they had made and the lives they had built. And As the conversation drew to a close, Harper turned to Willow and asked, "Will we ever meet again? In another life?" Willow's voice was filled with longing. "I like to think so, Harper. I like to think that we'll find our way back to each other in another life, where love is free and society doesn't dictate our hearts." As they said their goodbyes, Harper and Willow knew that their love would always be a part of them, a bittersweet memory that they would cherish forever. They knew that they would always wonder what could have been, but they also knew that they had made the choices they had to make, to survive in a world that didn't always understand them. As they hung up the phone, Harper looked out the window into the night sky and smiled. She knew that she would always carry a piece of Willow in her heart, and that their love would transcend time, space, and societal expectations. And as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't help but wonder, will we ever meet again in another life? The answer, only time would tell.